Fifth grade African American biographies. 5D, Maple Glen Elementary, February 2021. Marian Anderson by David. Marian Anderson was a contralto. A contralto is a type of singing. Marian lived from February 27, 1897 to April 8, 1993. She was the first African American to perform at the Metropolitan Opera. She even performed in front of the Lincoln Memorial. Arthur Ashe by Dennis. Arthur Ashe was the first African American male tennis player to win the U.S. Open, also at Wimbledon. He was also the first African American man to earn a spot on the Tennis Hall of Fame. When he found out he had AIDS, he tried to spread awareness about the disease. Arthur Ashe was born on July 10, 1943, and he died on February 6, 1993. Benjamin Banneker by Sebastian. Number 1. Benjamin was a famous almanac writer. It included helping astronauts with calculations for space. Number 2. He taught himself to read. No teacher. Number 3. He was born November 9, 1731 in Baltimore County, Maryland, and he took his last breath on October 9, 1806 in Baltimore County, Maryland. Ruby Bridges by Christina. Ruby Bridges was born on September 8, 1954. She is an activist. Bridges is still alive to this day. She attended kindergarten at a full Black people school, but one day she was asked to take a test. Later, she was admitted to a white school. The people at the school protested about this. Soon, the federal marshals helped her go to school and fight segregation in schools. Later, after graduating high school, she decided to work as a travel agent for 15 years. Bridges was given the Presidential Citizens Medal on 2001 by Bill Clinton. Ruby Bridges right now is helping to fight racism. She wrote a book called Through My Eyes. George Washington Carver by Sarah. George Washington Carver was born on a farm in Missouri. It is unknown exactly when he was born. He showed an interest for plants, starting when he was a child. When he was 11, George began going to an all-Black school in Nashville. He later moved to Kansas. In 1880, George graduated from Minneapolis High School and applied to Highland College in Kansas. The school was all white, and he was accepted but later rejected when they found out that he was Black. George later applied for Iowa State Agricultural School. He became the first ever African American to earn a Bachelor of Science degree in 1894. Octavius V. Catto by Abby. Octavius V. Catto was born on February 22, 1839. He was not born a slave because his parents were wealthy. He had moved to Pennsylvania around 1843. He was first enrolled at Robert Vaux Primary School. He was a huge civil rights activist and protester in Pennsylvania, but most people who don't live in Pennsylvania or weren't born in Pennsylvania really don't know about him. There is very little information about him, but he was a huge civil rights activist in Pennsylvania. Bessie Coleman by Ellen. On January 26, 1892, Bessie Coleman was born. Elizabeth Bessie Coleman was born into an African American and Native American family. Bessie was a great student, but she didn't finish school because of money issues. Bessie moved to live with her brother who served in World War I. He told her how in France planes were not only flown by men but also by women. It was then that Bessie decided to become a pilot. Bessie spent a lot of time raising money for her trip to France. Finally, after Bessie got to France, she learned how to fly a biplane. In 1921, she became the first African American and Native American to earn a pilot's license. After earning her pilot's license, Bessie started training to become a barnstormer, a pilot who does air shows and gives people rides. Bessie had her first barnstorming show in New York, where she performed in a flying circus. Following the show, she became the first African American woman. She became the first African American and Native American woman to stage a public flight. Bessie loved flying very much. She said, "The air is the only place free of prejudices." Bessie wanted others to understand how flying felt, so she spent time raising money for a flight school anyone could attend. Bessie died in 1926 when she and a mechanic were testing her new plane. At that time, she was just 34 years old. A few years later, a pilot established a flight school in her honor and named it the Bessie Coleman Aero Club. Quote, "I decided blacks should not have to experience the difficulties I had faced, so I decided to open a flying school and teach other black women to fly." End quote. Bessie Coleman. David Diggs by Ian. David Diggs was born in Oakland, California, and was the son of a social worker Barbara and Donut Diggs, a bus driver. His parents named him David because it is the Hebrew pronunciation of David. Diggs has said David means beloved in Hebrew. They spelled it with two E's because my dad liked the sound of it. End quote. David is a vocalist of temporary rap and hip hop group called Clippings. He is also a member of Lin-Manuel Miranda and Thomas Cale's freestyle rap group, Freestyle Love Supreme, or FLS, which performs across the country. Diggs played Thomas Jefferson and Marquis de Lafayette in Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton. In 2020, Diggs wrote Puppy for Hanukkah. And in 2017, Diggs played Mr. Brown in Wonder. Dr. Charles R. Drew by Elise. Dr. Charles Richard Drew was one of the most amazing African American surgeons. Dr. Drew was born on June 3, 1904, Washington, D.C. He went to Amherst College in Massachusetts. He was very athletic, and here are the sports that he did: track and football. In his later years, 1933, he went to his first instructing pathology. Pathology is the study of effects of diseases and injuries. He taught the subject from 1935 to 1936 at Howard University. In 1938, Dr. Drew was awarded a 2-year Rockefeller Award in surgery. He earned his Doctor of Science in Surgery at Columbia University. On the first day of April, Dr. Drew was driving his work buddies to a meeting when the car crashed and killed him. He was in a one-car car crash when he died. This man was so amazing, I can't fit his whole life on a slide, but he was a hero. Duke Ellington by Sebastian. Duke Ellington was a piano player and a revolutionary musician. Number 1, he was one of the originators of big band jazz. Number 2, his band composed thousands of songs. Number 3, he made and played music for 50 years. Number 4, he made more songs than just jazz. James Forten by Aidan. James was born in Philadelphia, September 2nd, 1766. He lived in the city. James Forten was an abolitionist and was a wealthy businessman. After the American Revolutionary War, he became a sailmaker, and later he got a new job, a foreman, when his boss retired and bought the sail loft. He was a very famous abolitionist and a sailmaker. He died on March 4th, 1842. Mean Joe Green by Ben. Charles Edward Mean Joe Green was born on September 24th, 1946, in Temple, Texas. When he was a child, Joe's father abandoned his family. Green played high school football at Dunbar High School. His position was DT, or defensive tackle. Green earned the nickname Mean Joe because he played hard football. Joe went to North Texas State College. He graduated in 1968, and he was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year in 1969. Joe was part of the Steel Curtain. The Steel Curtain was the Steelers' defense in the 70s that included Jack Lambert, Dwight White, Joe, L.C. Greenwood, Mel Blount, Jack Ham, etc. and most of them are now in the Hall of Fame. Their offense had Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, Lynn Swann, John Stallworth, Rocky Bleier. And over Mean Joe's career, the Steelers won 4 Super Bowls. Joe Green had a great career, so good that he was inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1987. After his career, he became an assistant coach for the Steelers and other teams. Joe was also in the movies like Rocky Bleier, Fighting Back. He also starred in a Pepsi commercial, which is arguably the greatest commercial of all time. Joe Green is now 74 years old. Alex Haley by Hannah, 5D MGES. Alex Haley was born in Ithaca, New York, August 11, 1921. Alex Haley died in February 10, 1992. He was an American writer whose works of historical fiction and reports depicted of African American lives was stunning. He is widely known for the books Roots and the autobiography of Malcolm X. His first book was the autobiography of Malcolm X. The autobiography of Malcolm X was published October 29, 1965. His third book was Roots, the Saga of an American Family. It was published on August 17, 1976. The movie called Roots came out January 23rd in 1977. Mae Jemison by Sophie. Mae Jemison was born on October 17, 1956. Her full name is Mae Carol Jemison. She was the first African American to go into outer space. Mae is a physician, an American engineer, and a former NASA astronaut. Mae left for her one and only space journey on September 12, 1992. Her mission was interacting with Japan. Mae's trip in space lasted 8 days. That is almost 200 hours being away from Earth. Katherine Johnson by Haley Hong. Katherine Johnson was born on August 26, 1998. A couple of years later, she started high school. Then she graduated from West Virginia State University. Later on, she started to work at NASA, but about 3 years later, her husband died. She later retired from NASA. In 2015, she was awarded the U.S. Presidential Medal for Freedom. 1 year later, NASA honored her and named a building after her. Sadly, she passed away February 24th, 2020 at 101 years old. Here are some fun facts. She was only 10 years old by the end of 8th grade, and she was 18 when she finished college. She was the third African American to get a PhD in math, and the only school around her that she could go to was 120 miles away. She was rejected from NASA the first time she applied. Shelton Johnson by Xavier. He was born 1958 in Detroit. Shelton Johnson is a park ranger with the National Park Service. He works at Yosemite National Park, and he often teaches dressed as a buffalo soldier. Buffalo soldiers were the first park rangers at Yosemite. He was featured in Ken Burns' documentary, National Parks, America's Best Idea. He started as a park ranger in Yellowstone. He works on bringing minorities to work in the national parks. Thurgood Marshall by Joyce. Thurgood Marshall was born on July 2, 1908 in Baltimore, Maryland. He attended college at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. After he graduated, he went on to Howard University. Thurgood became the chief counsel for the NAACP, which is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. In 1954, there was a case called Brown versus Board of Education. He won the case, showing that segregation in schools was unconstitutional. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy appointed Marshall as the judge on the United States Court of Appeals. Also in 1965, he became the United States Solicitor General. In 1966, President Lyndon Johnson nominated Marshall for the Supreme Court, and on August 30, 1967, he was confirmed by the Senate, and he became the first African-American Supreme Court justice. He served on the court for 24 years until he retired in 1991. Thurgood Marshall died on January 24, 1993, because of heart failure. Garrett Morgan by Julian. Garrett Morgan. He helped create the gas mask that saved people from poisonous gases in the wars. Without the gas masks, wars would be one-sided. He was born on March 4, 1877, and died on July 27, 1963. He lived about 86 years. One of his big inventions was that he made was a sewing machine that helped him get out of debt. After the sewing machine, he started to get to work on something that would help people breathe safely in bad air, like smoke. At first, it was called the safety hood. It became the prototype of the gas masks that would be used in war. When he chose to sell the invention, he hired a white actor to pose as him so he wouldn't be looked down on. Overall, without him, the entire war would have been lost. Barack Obama by Joelle. Barack Obama was the 44th U.S. president. He was the first ever African American president of the U.S. Obama was born on August 4th, 1961, in Honolulu, Hawaii. He is 59 years old. Before he was president, he was serving as a U.S. Senator from Illinois. His wife is Michelle Obama. Jesse Owens by Alexis. Jesse Owens was an American track and field athlete. He was a great athlete. He was a 4-time gold medalist in the 1936 Olympic Games. Jesse Owens was born on September 12, 1913. He is best remembered for his great performance at the 1936 Olympic Games. Jesse Owens died when he was 86 from smoking too much. Stevie Wonder by Jonah. Stevie Wonder was born on May 13, 1950 in Michigan. It was actually 6 weeks earlier than he was expected. He was born with retinopathy of prematurity, a disorder giving Stevie blindness. Despite this disorder, he was still a very gifted musician. His gift for music came at a very young age. Stevie Wonder made his first recording appearance when he was 11 years old with the band The Miracles. These are some of Stevie's songs. Jackie Robinson by Nash. Jackie Robinson was born on January 31st, 1919 in Cairo, Georgia. He was the youngest of 5 kids. Shortly after he was born, his father left and Jackie never saw him again. Jackie loved to play sports. Jackie ran track and played football, baseball, tennis, and basketball. People liked him when he was out on the field, but when he was off the field, many people didn't like him. After college, Jackie went to the Army. He retired from the Army and started to play baseball in a black league. Jackie was so good, the Brooklyn Dodgers manager wanted to sign him even though he was African American, and officially, Jackie Robinson became the first African American person to ever be on a Major League Baseball team. Jackie sadly died on October 24th, 1972. Malcolm X by Armand. Malcolm X was born on May 19, 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska. Malcolm X was an African-American Muslim minister and human rights activist. He was a popular figure during the civil rights movement. He has a lot of famous quotes like, "Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today." And another quote, "You can't separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace unless he has freedom." Fun fact is he has 6 children. Sadly, he was assassinated in February 21st, 1965. He was trying to give a speech when he was killed. Thank you for watching and listening to our presentation.